So you want to lose fat and gain muscle at the same time. All well and good, but unfortunately, there's a big misconception in what gaining muscle means and your understanding of what muscle gain means. You see, losing weight and gaining muscle require two opposite systems and habits. To lose weight, you need to be in a caloric deficit. To gain muscle mass, you need to be in a calorie surplus.
So is it not actually possible to gain muscle in a calorie deficit? The first thing that I want to point out is we do not need a caloric surplus to gain muscle. What we would need is a nitrogen surplus. And all this simply means is that the amount of protein that we are holding on to is more than the amount we are excreting. With that being said, this does not require us to eat in an energy surplus in order to have more nitrogen retention than loss. However, this does indicate that a higher protein diet would be more beneficial for body recomposition, which is gaining muscle and losing fat at the same time. And this has even been demonstrated in physique athletes, where this study on physique athletes demonstrated that fat-free mass, which is typically composed mostly of muscle protein, increased significantly more in the high protein group compared to the low protein group. And fat mass significantly decreased over time more in the high protein group. But they actually found that there was no change in fat mass in the low protein group, indicating that if you would like to gain muscle and lose fat at the same time, having a higher protein diet seems to be more beneficial. But once again, we do not require a surplus of energy in the form of fat and carbohydrates to have a surplus of protein for muscle protein synthesis. A good way to think about it, while it's not perfect, is that fat and carbohydrates are energy and protein is more of a structural component. So we can be in a surplus of protein while being in an energy deficit, allowing us to use our stored body fat for energy to liberate fatty acids and glucose into the bloodstream, but have enough dietary protein that there's enough substrate around for protein synthesis. And there's a myriad of studies by leading researchers like Jose Antonio and the one I just showed, Dr. Bill Campbell, and this very recent one by Alex Ribeiro, indicating that a higher protein intake is advantageous for body recomposition, but that gaining muscle and losing fat at the same time is absolutely possible. With that being said, he is correct that if we want to put on the most amount of muscle, eating in a caloric surplus will be more beneficial than eating in a caloric deficit. And eating in a caloric deficit while still trying to gain muscle requires a lot more micromanaging of protein, fat, carbohydrates, and micronutrients than gaining muscle in a caloric surplus. With that being said, they're not technically two entirely different processes. And given that we have the right stimulus through resistance training, a high protein intake which gives us the substrate and is used as a signal to instigate protein synthesis, while still maintaining a caloric deficit allowing the body to use body fat for energy, it's absolutely possible to lose fat and gain muscle at the same time. And if you want to learn what's best for you, whether it be losing fat, gaining muscle, or trying to do body recomposition, and the best way to do it while still having energy and not feeling hungry all the time, send me a DM to sign up for coaching.